Welcome to Solution Focused Future. I'm Joe George. Today we're here with Mark Mitchell. And Mark, how do you like to be introduced?
I see myself as a coach, therapist, trainer. I'm in Los Angeles area, and now what I do mostly, well, I do two things. I teach in a graduate school, and I teach addiction studies class, and I teach in a addictions certification program. So I do that. Do a little therapy or coaching on the side, and then I go to various companies in the Los Angeles areas and organizations doing leadership development, team building, a variety of things. So
And why solution focused brief therapy?
I don't know how many years ago it was. It probably 35, 40 years ago, somewhere around there. I was looking for a model that had steps to it. I'd been trained in Gestalt therapy very heavily and was a very emotionally affective kind of therapist in my communication. And I was good at it and I liked it, but I wanted to learn a real methodological model. And so I had hired a Israeli, I don't know if you know him, a therapist named Moshe Talman. Moshe Talman is the first guy to come out with single session therapy. He has a book on it. And I don't know where Moshe is now these days. So I hired him. And I'd come across Steve DeShazer's book Keys, and it looked like it was a close to what I was looking for. And so Moshe, I brought him on. He was interested in it, and then I just started making trips to Milwaukee, for weekends to learn about it. Wasn't a big believer in it, and eventually lived in Milwaukee and trained in their summer institute. So that's how I got involved, I
And do
guess.
you use solution focused thinking in your own life?
I would say so. I mean, you cannot not use it in some ways. Once you get indoctrinated and you're in it, you kind of see the world through that lens. I think, and a lot. So I use it both professionally and I think personally for sure. It probably annoys my wife quite a bit, but that's part of my job as a husband.
What are the three most important things you think people should master as they learn to use solution focused thinking?
What a great question. Uh, Certainly, curiosity. These are common ideas and stuff, and I would say curiosity, respect, and I would say a belief that clients have resources. Well, the big thing is in solution folk is what's working essentially, the spirit of what's working. I think that is the big thing. Solution focus offers other things that I think people don't realize how important they are. Um, One is solution focus in its older forms was very metaphoric, and metaphor cuts through bullshit more than anything. That's why scaling questions, miracle questions, those things are really powerful. People don't realize, I think, how powerful they're because those are metaphors, hmm? And they're very powerful. I think you look at the neuroscience research on metaphors, it really stands out that way. So, and that's those kinds of things, especially scaling metaphors, those kinds of technique things, let's call them that, are very, very powerful for people, I think.
Everyone brings their previous experiences into what they do. You said you were heavily into Gestalt. How do you think that influenced your current application of
Oh,
solution
huge,
focused
huge,
practice?
huge. Yeah, a quick backstory a little bit. I got introduced to the therapy world when I was 15 years old in high school. And I went to a Catholic high school where we had nuns and priests who were trained as Gestalt therapists. And we had religion classes that were a mixture of learning about, the Catholic faith and other faiths actually, and a group therapy, oftentimes using Gestalt therapy techniques. A funny story, because it's recent. About a month ago, I went to my 50-year high school reunion, and the nun who started this program came to my reunion 50 years later. This is unbelievable. And I saw this nun, and I said, Sister Alice. I was blown away, and I just said to her, I want to thank you for saving my life. I mean, you and what those other teachers did kept me out of drugs, kept me out of trouble, and you created my professional career. You tipped it that way towards the therapy world, and it was just mind blowing to see her. I mean, she's like 90, and to thank her directly for the gift that she gave me. So that's how that's the long answer. And then I got involved in Gestalt therapy. And at that time, there wasn't solution focused therapy at the time, it didn't exist. So, that was in the 70s, really. It didn't exist in any way that people knew a lot about. So that's how I got it. And then I was always interested in finding better things that worked. So then after that, I trained in structural strategic family therapy, Minucci and Haley, and loved it. I still love it. And then I kept looking for what are better models for things that helping people. I was always interested in helping people. How can we do better? How can we do better? So that's what kind of got me into it.
What fields beyond counseling do you think best align with solution focused thinking?
Fields beyond counseling. Well, certainly it can be. I also went to a business school in 2000, and certainly in the business world, they like to think very pragmatic, very grounded, very it's kind of solution based. Let's call it that. Though they may not always work that way. So in the business world and consulting or training that way, it seems to be a friendly model. I would say that, and certainly my experience in the veteran world, because I do some work in the veteran military world, uh, they're very interested in pragmatic things. Pragmatic solution focus, I would say, is kind of, and that's what's the wonderful thing about it. It's known for its pragmatism. That's why, and that's kind of in my opinion, one way of looking, I view it as a very Midwestern American ideal. You're from Michigan, so it's very pragmatic usually, and that's the joy I've always seen in it. Where some of the other models sometimes get very esoteric and conceptual ideas, it's a very pragmatic model, and that's what I liked about Steve DeShazer, just pragmatic.
Now, you might actually have this, you might be able to whip out this next one really quickly because you've had your own business for so long. If you had to come up with an advertising campaign for solution focused brief therapy, what would your slogan be?
I used to have one. What was it? So long ago. My first thought was finding out what works. That's my first thought. Find out what works. Or do you know what works?
Which one do you like better?
Oh, the question's a little more engaging. But it all depends on what kind of picture you have with it, doesn't
And
it?
of all the things that you've been doing, and like you said, you're winding down, but you're still really darn youthful and young. There's no way you could be like contemplating retirement. What kind of things are you really excited about that you've been doing, or things that you'd like people to know more about?
I'm most excited about the rediscovery and the re-looking at my relationship with nature.
Is that personal, professional, or both?
Both, both. When I was in college, I was a wilderness survival instructor. So I'd take a group of people out in the woods, and you get a potato, an onion, and a carrot, and you'd be out there 3 days, and you have to find water and stay warm and not die. And so uh, it's kind of now I've gotten older. I'm in LA. Los Angeles is very urban. There isn't a lot of nature here. We have the beach, which is good, but you have to really seek it out. So I've been involved with the botanical gardens locally. I'm doing a workshop on nature in you. Some of the research on people's relation with nature coming from E.O. Wilson, a biologist, and some other folks. So that's what's kind of sparked me the most as far as engagement and enjoyment goes. Um, and then the other thing, that I love, and probably you experience this in other therapies, at this stage of my life, I love passing the baton and seeing the light in people's eyes when they discover a tool and they're excited about helping people. I love it. Like I got this kid, he's got Crohn's disease. Well, he's a kid to me, he's probably 30. He's got Crohn's disease, a drug addict, gangbanger. Um, and he's just, he presented last week his very first PowerPoint ever. And this guy doesn't, he done some jail time and he's in my class in addictions. And I love this guy. And he's so excited about learning about counseling, solution focus, helping people. And when I see that, when I see the baton being passed to the next generation, that really, young people, that's why I teach.
Where do you see the next generation taking it?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Well, I do have some crazy ideas. On the both the good, bad, I see um, solution focus. Somebody, I'm sure there's been some creation of this already. A solution focus AI program. That's already, even back in the 80s, Steve DeShazer had a computer program called Briefer. And it was a consulting device computer program to consult on interventions and stuff like that. And it was abandoned for legal, ethical reasons. But with AI coming up in the next 5 years, I'm sure AI will be super solution focused in some ways, which is both good and not so good. I think technology, use of technology, VR. I've seen VR stuff with like the military, army, PTSD using CBT with a VR headset. I'm so, and that could be done. I'm sure that's in the works somewhere. Somebody's working on that. So I see that the dominant culture of digital and faster. Uh, you know, and that is, I think, the cultural change around the world is everybody wants things to go faster. And solution focus, in a way, you have to go slower. Steve DeSager used to see that. He used to say, "Go slow, slow down." So, so the future, I think, will be more in that area. One direction I think it needs to go more in is, well, this is exciting actually. The use of technology to a certain degree. Like I saw a presentation in Canada where a solution focused therapist used a heart monitor during the session. And they had screens where they could look at each other's heart. And so through the process of asking the questions, you see biological responses, real-time biological responses. So I'm excited about that. I know in the anthropology world, because I'm connected also in the anthropology world, that use of things like, we have a solution focused interview, we take some saliva samples before and after, and we see cortisol levels are less. So biology, use of biology, realizing we're biological entities, I think is a good idea. We're not talking machines, we're not Wittgenstein machines. So, um, so integration of neurobiology in some ways, I think is that's kind of interesting. We'll see where it goes in solution focus if it goes that way or not. But I don't know what else is the latest greatest flavor out there right now, or who's out there that's killing it, so to speak, or so.
Do you know who Adam Ferrer is?
Yeah.
Adam, and there was, of course, I forgot the other two. There's a therapist in Scandinavia, a therapist in the UK, and Adam, and
Yeah.
they got together and did some brain studies.
Yeah.
And basically they just were. I caught a presentation a couple months ago that they were giving feedback on this, and they didn't actually have the data all crunched yet, but they might now.
Mhm.
But it is nice. I'm a brain dork. I really like.
Okay.
I
Okay.
really like doing brain research, and I love
Yeah.
that brain research actually supports everything about therapy. And
Yeah.
I mean, anything.
Yeah. I did see I think Adam was presenting. I saw a title and I thought, okay, Adam and these guys are going in the right direction. That's good. Um, I think the solution culture as a whole is lagging behind in that area. and it needs to ramp up to be culturally more relevant.
Are there any other things that you want to address?
For solution focused people, they work so hard, also having some sort of balance in their life. I would say they need to do that. And that means not always reading. It means being physically active. I'm a big physical activity kind of guy. And so, however they do that, you know what I mean? And relational, being in a relationship. So, and also I think the other thing is, I think creativity with the model is really wonderful. I mean, you can do it in such a variety of contexts. I mean, with, gee, how can I use this? And I've always been that way. When I go to a place, I'll say, gee, could they use my solution focused services here? How would they use it, or how could we use it? And I think thinking that way, uh, being entrepreneurial, um, I think is really important for solution focused people. They have to, and it's kind of a, I think in the therapy world, you're sort of taught not to be too entrepreneurial. uh, like my classes, my students have to do a business plan when they leave the class. They have to do a business plan because I know their graduate education, they don't get any of that shit, unfortunately. And so when they get it and they hit the street, especially in LA, I mean, California has over what, at least 75,000 therapists in the state.
What?
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's huge, and you know, and every kind of school you can. That solution focus isn't very popular here, but you know, that you have to compete with a lot of people, so you have to have a niche, and you have to be out there. People just aren't going to show on your doorstep. So, um, in many ways, that's sort of not the culture of the one down, low key approach. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
totally.
think you have to find a way to balance that, which is hard, you know, because you're sort of taught not to be the center of attention in solution focus, and then you have to sort of promote yourself a little bit, uh, to show people that you're somebody. You know what I mean? You have to do a little of that. So it's always, I think that's a real tricky cultural balance. You kind of get a little schizophrenic with it after a while. So
Oh, totally. It's hard to say you're the expert, but come to me. It's-
yeah,
Thank you for everything. Thank you for your time. I
yeah.
really do appreciate it.